Okay, let's go.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so very much for attending this evening. I am going to try and make this as interesting as it can be for doing secretary minutes. But introducing myself, I am Cheryl Addleman. I am a member of the San Francisco Club. I have been a seroptimist for about 13 years now and have served on different positions on the San Francisco board, except for treasurer. Never done that, so can't give you any tips on that. But I've also served on the SPR Pacific Region Board as a district director in 2020 to 2022. I'm sorry, 2018 to 2020. And then currently serving as board secretary for the SPR Pacific Region. So very excited about that. Thank you, Judy, for asking me to do this. Hopefully it will be a benefit to everyone. Clearly, one of the things I just want to note that I am by no means an expert, although I have been taking minutes for quite some time. And I do write for my current job. I am a workplace investigator, and I have to do investigations involving workplace issues like discrimination, sexual harassment, and that requires me to create reports that contain just the facts so that I can be able to determine is it more likely than not. So I do have experience in writing, so just to give you that. But again, want to make sure that this is we're going to talk about meeting minutes and how to kind of go about that, and how they can be most effective and how to make it easier for you, but also want to make sure that this is an interactive course. So certainly I understand that some clubs may do things differently. So we'll have the opportunity to talk about what it is that you do or don't do, and maybe we can learn something from each other. So I am going to go ahead and share my screen and see if I can get this to work right. Share, okay. Hit the share button. Yeah, not that. Give me a moment here. It's taking its own little time there. Yeah. Yeah, a little spooling there. It's a little slow, so bear with me. Can you see it spooling there, wanting to start? Okay, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this evening we are doing, as part of the Leadership Academy, we're doing effective meeting minutes. And so meeting minutes really are the official record of what occurs at a meeting. It's your evidence of decisions. It helps you to create a clear list of action items and next steps. And so when someone first starts taking minutes, they're often like, just, you know, like, here you go, here's the secretary, without formal training or little training or little support. So a lot of times, like most of the positions on the seroptimist board, it's learning on the job. And so based on, the importance of the minutes, there could be some adverse implications based on if they're not being done correctly. And so hopefully the takeaways here will be some concrete tips for creating effective meeting minutes, and hopefully will help you avoid common mistakes. So how do we write effective meeting minutes? And what are meeting minutes? So again, they're the written record of a meeting or a hearing, and that it is, hold on a second. Yes. And it's usually structured and it's very formal. And the minutes are meant to be shared after the meeting, and they also serve as a historical document. So that we're required to keep them for a certain period of time. And I'm still, in all honesty, unclear as to how long we need to keep them, because it's not clear. I'm not sure I've gotten a great answer from even SIA. But anyway, they are historical documents that need to be kept. Certainly everything now is electronically, so if you're keeping them that way, just make sure that they're in a spot where they can be transferred from one person to the other. And if you're keeping hard copies, again, making sure that they're able to be kept so that you have that record. And the minutes are also for those that could not attend the minutes. It provides them with documentation of what occurred. If there's any follow-up, especially if they're on a committee, they will need to know, what happened, what was said, what's the next steps, what, if anything, do I need to do to follow up if I'm on membership or fundraising, that sort of thing. So it should be documenting all those discussions that happened during the course of the meeting. And again, most importantly, if an organization, this certainly will never happen with Sir Optimus, let's knock on wood. But if an organization enters in any sort of legal situation, the minutes again serve as an official record, proving that we did our due diligence, that we acted ethically, and that we followed our bylaws. And we're going to talk about bylaws in a little bit as well too. So what SIA has given us as far as club guidelines, again, it is prepare, maintain, record, circulate the minutes, correspondence of meetings, and any other related affairs in accordance with the club bylaws. In order to prepare for the meeting and to help with effective meeting minutes, it's good to have for the club secretary to have a binder. I think it's helpful to have a binder with all of the information at your fingertips. And that would include, what your duties are, even though you know what they are, it's always good to have a point of reference. But it's good to have your club's code of conduct, your club's bylaws and procedures and standing rules, whether it's for your club and even for the region or federation. So I always find it very helpful to have a binder at my fingertips with all of this information. So if something were to come up, you're able to quickly be kind of research and, to figure out, well, our club bylaw says this, and this is the procedure for that. So it's helpful to have that. And the region has bylaws, the federation has bylaws and procedures, but each club should have their own bylaws and procedures. It's very important. And most important, and we're going to talk a lot about this, is agenda. It's important that before you go to the meeting that you have an agenda and that it's arranged in proper order. That will help you with any motions that occur during the meeting. And it's some clubs do it differently. Some clubs, the secretary does the agenda. Some clubs, the president likes to do the agenda. Either case, everything starts with the agenda. if you have an outline of what the meeting will be like, that will certainly help and guide you as you do your minutes. That is the most important takeaway, is making sure you have a clear agenda, regardless of who does it. And if the president is doing it, you need to make sure that you coordinate with the president prior to the meeting, so you have a clear copy. Prior to the meeting, the secretary should be sending out the agenda along with the minutes from the previous meeting. Although I also know that some clubs still like the paper version, and that's okay. They print it out and they bring the printed copies to the meetings. Either or, that is the duties of the secretary, is to make sure that you have an agenda, that you have copies of the meeting minutes from the previous meeting to bring to your meeting. And when we talk about meetings here, we're talking mostly about the business meetings, but a lot of this pertains to board meetings as well, because you have your board meeting and then you have your business meeting. When we talk about, there should be minutes taken at both. Sometimes with the board, it's a little different because the board minutes are only shared with the board, whereas the business meetings is shared with everyone. Any questions? And as I go through this, don't hesitate, just, this is informal. Please stop, ask questions throughout as I go throughout this. So as we talked about, the most helpful tip regarding taking effective meeting minutes is to make sure that the minute formats, the format is aligned with the meeting agenda. So if you have your agenda and you have it up, while you're going through, you can go through and you're typing your minutes based on what's happening in the meeting, because the agenda is guiding you through that meeting. So when there is a meeting agenda format in place, the meeting minutes will follow that format. And that makes it so much easier and more effective when you're taking meeting minutes. Everyone on the call, does your club work with an agenda? Can I just get?
Yes.
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 They do. Okay. All right. That to me is probably the most important. Again, agenda. And when we talk about that, what does that agenda look like? Again, this might differ if it's a board or if it is a business meeting. A lot of times with the board, you want to make sure that you note voting members, non-voting members, that sort of thing. And again, some clubs do roll call. Not every club does that. Some clubs will just write down the members that are present, or they'll just have a blank of all of their members and then just cross out who's there, who's not there, whatever makes it easier. But the minutes should certainly contain those members that were present. If you have any non-voting members, because certain members don't get a chance to vote, and that certainly should be noted. Members' absence, it is sometimes when you have a big club, that really may not be a line item on the agenda or the minutes. And maybe it's really more important that who was present. Certainly, if you have any guests, you want to make sure that they're listed. And when you're taking the minutes, call to order, that's important, and what time the meeting started, any guest speakers. So really just following what it is that your club likes to do. And one of the things that you have to do is approve the minutes from the previous meeting. And you want to make sure that you do that. Certainly, if there's any corrections, this is where you would note that as well too. And then just, minutes filed or, as amended or as revised. And then you go through all of the reports, whether the president report, sometimes after that. I know in our club, we do president report and / correspondence. So any correspondence that we got is included in the president's report. I've seen some clubs where the secretary correspondence is included in their section in their report. But you want to make sure that you have, whether it's the treasurer's report, secretary, you have all the committee reports, you have line items for those. And as you go through the agenda, you're able to quickly write down, what's being said. Again, you don't have to write down verbatim. Really, it's just summarizing what was discussed. But certainly it's important if somebody makes a motion that you mention them by name. And this too is a little tricky. Some places they put the name, and some clubs they put the name. And some clubs just use the members' initials, and that's permissible as well too. To just put, DJ had a suggestion regarding a fundraising event, something of that sort, and any discussion that ensued after that. But again, programs, whether it's Live Your Dream, Dream It Be It, Service Club, old business, new business, and then any announcements that you want to make for your club. And then meeting adjourned. And then when is the next meeting date and time? It's important that those are included in the minutes. And again, for those members that are not present, again, it's a great tool for them to see, okay, to make sure this is on my calendar. Some clubs meet, more often than others. Our club, we meet once a month. Some clubs meet, I understand, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So requires more minutes, more agendas, that sort of thing. So any questions? Okay, again, we talked about, there's like 8 basic elements of your meeting minutes, the date, time, location, who are the participants, the topics discussed, and that again, all your programs, that sort of thing. Motions. One of the other things that should be in your binder as well too is to make sure that you have motions. There are motion forms that can be made ahead of time. You bring those with you, so when motions are made, that can be completed. Who made the motion, and what was the motion, what was the vote, that sort of thing. And if anybody needs a copy of that form, I'm happy to send that to you. The voting outcomes, that's important as well too. And then when you're doing your minutes, you can certainly reference a motion made, see motion number 4, and that could be attached to your minutes as a permanent record. And again, as we talked about, next meeting dates in place. And so the question I have right now is, are your clubs doing motion forms right now, or no? Or are you just putting the motion in the minutes?
I just put them in the minutes.
Okay. All right. Don't.
This is Nikki.
Yes, Nikki.
Hi, SI of the Sierras. And I've never seen a motion form.
Okay.
I hadn't either till I was on this year's board.
Yes. And so, and putting it in the minutes is not incorrect, but when a motion is made, usually they want the secretary's signature, and the person that made the motion, they want them to sign it saying that they did in fact make the motion. Because if you're ever called into court, heaven forbid, and then somebody says, oh, I didn't make that motion, you have a document that has their signature on it. And so that really is the purpose behind having a motion form, other than just having it in the minutes, that you have a signed document, because it's this motion, it could be from a financial standpoint, allowing the board or the club to do something that's a financial responsibility. And that's important to make sure that you have someone who made the motion and then they signed that. So after this, I'll get your information from Judy, and I'm happy to send out, and it's a fillable form, so you could do it online if you're one of those that, you type your meeting minutes up while you're there, you can fill it out and send it to individuals, and then they can sign it and send it back.
Okay,
Or
thank you.
have the forms there and then just write it out and have them sign it. That works as well too. Any other questions regarding motions and voting? And it has all the information on the form as far as, okay, this passed, were there how many yeas, how many nays, any notes that you want to put on it as well too. All right. So again, taking the minutes, the primary role of the secretary is to keep the minutes, the board and the business meetings, following Robert's rules of order. Certainly so many new versions out there. It's, the kind of meeting, the name of the group, and that's why it's, you want to make sure your name is on there. It's for Optimus International, the group, date, time, place, officers that were present, president, secretary, and if somebody's filling in for you, it's important to note they're taking the notes for you or taking minutes. It's important to make sure that that's documented as well. If president's not there and maybe the president-elect or vice president is sitting in, it's always important, and that information for that meeting should always be noted in the minutes. Okay. Okay, so when you're taking the notes, it's important that we stick to the facts. We record only the facts. We never record opinions. Sally was very heated when she talked about what they should do for fundraising. That's not what we're looking for. Rather, it should be, there was discussion regarding the different options for fundraising, and leave it at that. Or if somebody makes a suggestion about something that's really good, or two people make the same suggestion, you can say, two members suggested that we contact this business for sponsorship. It's something like that. It's okay to just list someone's name. Sally had a suggestion that members, agreed with, and, it was decided that we're going to contact this vendor, that sort of thing. But it's important just to record only the facts. If again, a motion or discussion is lengthy or not understandable, you want to make sure you ask the president to have whoever made the motion repeat it, because you want to write it how it's being said and what it's being voted on. So the motions are important in that sense, that you get the language correct. And there may be discussions about that, and somebody can make a motion, and then you could have a discussion about the actual language of the motion. So, and that's okay. Get the motion, the language correct before you write it out. And then they say for the business meetings, it's really not necessary to record who seconded the motion, or even mention what the discussion included. But, on the motion form, you don't have to do that. And clearly, if you wanted to just make a note at the bottom, the reason why the motion was made, that's acceptable. But for business meetings, you don't have to record who seconded it. For board meetings, you do. Does that make sense? And again, if a question is hotly contested, you can simply note after a lengthy discussion or something to that effect. It's not necessary to like several members were up in arms about this, the way we want to do this. You just want to keep it as simple and factual as possible, and not, again, record any opinions or, people being, not being good stewards. It's about recording what occurred, not verbatim, but just the facts. After lengthy discussion, we've decided that we will send this back to the committee, or that more information is needed. Sarah will follow up with so-and-so and bring back for further discussion. Make sense? Any questions? Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So when we talk about the different reports, because again, if you have the agenda and it has each person and that's having a report, that's submitting a report, and I know in some clubs, each person is responsible for submitting their reports to the club president so that they have an idea of what's to come. Usually the club president will share that with the secretary so that you have the document that they've submitted their report, and they're just, when they give it at the meeting, they're just going to summarize it. But you have the document that you can always refer to as you go after it's all over, and you want to just check on writing these minutes so they get that correct. So if your club operates that way, it's fantastic. And it's always good to coordinate again with the president if they're receiving reports ahead of time to make sure that you have copies of those. So again, those can be certainly included with minutes as well. Some clubs, the treasurer or, the different committee members will just come and give their report, and they don't have anything written or anything that they've already submitted. So again, that's where, you have to do a little bit more work, and things like the treasurer's report. So it should include balances indicated in the treasurer's report and be stated that the report is filed for audit. Correspondence, again, you're briefly recording items received. If important, make the piece of correspondence a part of the minutes by attaching it. And you can record any action that's taken as a result of that correspondence. Reports of standing committees, again, record the name of the person giving the report and the committee name. Record the facts briefly again. Your minutes should just be very brief. It's all about the summary and not verbatim. So it is important to report, and it should be made in writing and made a copy of the permanent record. So it should be stated in the minutes. Committee recommendations and motions, a lot of times your motions will come from the committee reports, whether it's fundraising or whether it's Live or Dream or Dream It Be It, especially when you're planning these activities. Requires the club renting space or having to pay for different things, and you want to make sure that you have everyone's approval to do that. Again, when assignments are made, and especially on a committee level, it's important to be a little detailed in that area, because if you're on a fundraising committee and then the committee chair is reporting on something, we're looking for volunteers, or we have 4 people, we need 6 more, or that we need follow-up to find additional sponsors. It's important to note who's volunteering for what. So again, you have something documented and everybody knows who's doing what. So in some committees, it's important to be a little bit more detailed, use names, making sure you can brief. Sally agreed to call 5 vendors. Sarah agreed to call the bank to see if they could sponsor us. And in that sense, you want to be as detailed as possible and name names, so that if there's, again, for people that aren't there and for people that are there, they can easily look at the notes. What did I volunteer for? Or what was I volunteered for? Because sometimes it happens as well too. So it's important to be very concise with that. Okay. All right. And I think I mentioned this before. The secretary presents the recommendations of the board to the club at the business meeting, but only board members have access to the actual minutes of the board. And unless like with our board in San Francisco, certainly members are welcome to attend. And if they attend, they certainly know what's going on and will be listed as attending as a guest. But club members have access to the business meeting minutes, but not to the board minutes. And hopefully that's a practice that's happening with all of the clubs, or it should be. Okay. Corrections and changes. When we start at the beginning of the meeting, there's a section certainly for approval of the minutes from the previous meetings. So any corrections to the minutes, such as, wrong date or misspelled name, needs to be noted in the current minutes, but should be entered on the margin of the previous minutes. So it's mentioned and noted in the current minutes, but if you have the previous minutes, you can actually go in and just write what that correction is, and then that's how they will be filed. If there's objections to the way a motion was recorded, or if there are debates over the real intentions of the club, the motion should be restated exactly as the club wants it. Second, and then a new vote taken. And that is when we're talking about a motion that maybe occurred at the previous meeting and was part of the previous meeting minutes. There is some debate on this, but at this point, that is how it should be handled. The restated motion is listed in the margin of the previous minutes, and then the action is recorded in the current meeting minutes. Nothing is erased from minutes. A line is drawn through them. And then once the approval of the minutes, the secretary should note approved and record the date and initial the original minutes. Any questions on this? Because again, I think, you know, people, the clubs do things differently, but this is what has been handed to us from SIA. And, you know, this is according to Robert's Rules of Order. But again, it's important that you have your club's bylaws, your club's procedures, and look through those and make sure that if there are questions, if you have questions about the meeting and its meetings, and it's not spelled out, that you get that clarity, because maybe it's time to revisit your club, to revisit the procedures and revisit bylaws. And you can certainly do that on the club level. There is a bylaw committee for the Sierra Pacific region, and they are a great resource as well too. So if there are questions, you can certainly reach out to one of the members there to get some guidance and direction. So again, minutes become a permanent copy. They should never be destroyed. And they are a legal record of the proceedings of the club. Okay. So I want to stop here a minute and just see if there are any areas of concern or any questions about any part of the secretary's role or taking meeting minutes that you have. I want to give you the opportunity to provide some kind of feedback on what you do that helps you, because maybe it could help us, and see if you have any overall questions.
Well, I have a couple of questions, Cheryl.
Sure. Mhm.
One is, I know that sometimes people will record a meeting in order to assist with taking minutes later.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion or thoughts about that?
So with recordings, and I'm a little, just because we're in the state of California, if that is an option they choose, I would certainly make sure that everyone is okay with, you know, you need to let them know, I'm recording this meeting for the purposes to help me make sure I capture everything. And I think it's important to note that in your meeting minutes, that you have recorded it. But the problem becomes that you have to keep that recording.
Hmm.
You have to keep that recording and you have to file it, you know, with the minutes. So
Interesting, because yeah, I know this is not so much a Sir Optimus thing, but in other
Right.
instances I've seen it, they'll say, you know, at the beginning, well, I'm going to record it just for purposes of taking minutes, and then I will
Right.
destroy the recording. So
Right.
that's interesting that
Right.
that shouldn't be
if it's
done.
a meeting for like a board or nonprofit,
Yeah,
you know, that then becomes, you know, a
yeah,
document,
that makes sense.
you know, or evidence kind of thing. But yeah, I know that a couple clubs have used that, but I'm not sure that they're keeping now. I think they might be just recording.
Yeah, my
over
guess
them, but
is not.
technically, yeah, they're
Yeah.
supposed to kind of hold on to them.
And then
Yeah.
my second question, and maybe, you know, any secretaries that are on the call right now could comment on, I know that, I know I've heard from other people in the secretary role that it limits their ability to participate in the meeting because they're so busy just writing everything down. And I wonder if you have any suggestions on, you know, how a secretary, as a member of a board in a board meeting or as a club member in a business meeting, can, you know, tips for being able to be an active participant and still kind of be documenting as you've talked about.
Right. It's a hard role to navigate. certainly you should be, if someone's talking, you don't understand what they're saying, to be able to stop them and say, can you repeat that? Or, anything to that level. Certainly when it's time for the secretary's report, it's also good to just reiterate that, I am, this is what I'm reporting on, but I also want to remind you, I am taking notes. Some people, I've seen some secretaries type as they go, and some old school, because sometimes I'll just write them, which allows me more time to interact with the business at hand. But some like to type, so sometimes I go in between. But it's a really hard balance there, and I think that you do have the ability to offer an opinion when a topic is up. Certainly be able to, especially when there's discussion about something, participate in that. And then again, you're just writing, after much discussion,
Yeah.
we decided on this. And then again, making sure that what you're recording is what everyone's agreeing on. Because sometimes I think that's the biggest thing, that you can lose sight of what it is that you're talking about when you put, stop typing or put your pencil down or pen down to interact with anyone else and everyone else, and then to offer an opinion. It's okay to do that. I encourage people to do that because you are part of the club, but then to certainly circle back with everyone. Okay, I want to make sure that this is what I'm hearing, that this is what we're saying. I find that, kind of participating and pacing it that way allows me the time to, record, but then also participate. But yeah, sometimes it's a hard, hard line to follow. Anyone else have any tricks on that? Nikki, what about you? And how you interact with the club if you're taking minutes?
Well, the president does the agenda for both the board meeting and the business meeting, and I just take brief notes off of what she already has there. And of course, if something new is brought up, then I just throw that in too. But if I didn't have those notes, it would be a mess. I would just,
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do that.
Yeah, the agenda is key. That is key, because you follow along with that. And then does your club, the different committee members, do they submit reports prior to the business meeting or board meeting?
Well, we have a list of all the committees, and I think that they notify the president ahead of time if something's going to be coming up, and then I would mention that in the minutes. But they notify the president ahead of time, I should say.
Because sometimes the president of some clubs require the committee members to submit a paper, a document, just summarizing, this is what I'm going to talk about, or these are things that we need to talk about. So if they're submitting that to the president prior to the meeting, board or business, it's important that she shares that with you so that you have copies of that and can refer to that, as you go through, because they're going to take that report and just summarize it, and you can certainly get that, but then you also have a point of reference.
Right.
Yeah, if they're submitting it beforehand.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it Nikki that said she didn't have the motion form?
Correct.
I have, because I'm conference coordinator, I have your email address. I can send you our motion form if you would like me to send it to her, Judy and Cheryl.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, then I will hit send right this second with a copy to Cheryl and Judy.
Thank you.
I just hit it.
Awesome.
One thing good about being conference coordinator, I know people's names.
See, there you go. All right, so any other questions, or are you doing anything that we've not talked about that you found has been beneficial for you in how you take minutes?
I mean, I've definitely always found it's beneficial to just do them right away. and
Yeah.
Not wait, while it's fresh in your mind, like
Right.
immediately after a meeting.
Right,
I agree completely. Yeah.
yeah. And then how soon before the meeting do you guys, Nikki, do you send out your meeting minutes to the members?
Well, as we're talking, this year, I've been in the club for like over 22 years or something.
Ooh,
And
okay,
this time around, before I would send them out maybe a week after I did them, but nobody would remember. By the time the next meeting happened, nobody would remember anything.
right,
And so this year and last year when I was doing it, and the year before when I was doing it, it's like a week before. They said if you send it out a week before, but then, so I
Yeah.
do, and I never have any changes. Everybody approves everything. So
okay,
I don't know.
okay. And
Just
you,
for your information, what I do is
Uh-huh.
I'm president, is I have the secretary send them to me. I send them out with the agenda of the next meeting because no one was looking at them beforehand. No one remembered ever even getting them. So with the agenda, I send the minutes with the agenda.
oh, you're president this year?
Yes.
How exciting!
Yeah.
Good for you.
And our
So-
secretary
so-
is in New York right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So Nikki, you also, do you send them to the president first, right? Before they go out to approve?
Oh,
right?
absolutely, for her
Okay,
approvals, but
okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, and I certainly get that because sending them out a week before is a lot easier. And people can, kind of go back and look at their emails and access them better
Right.
than if they were sent a month prior. So I think we've had to learn that in San Francisco, but kind of the hard way. So yeah. Yeah. All right. I'm not sure if I have I don't have anything else. I really just wanted to stop and pause here and again see if there were any questions, and certainly talk about who was doing what, to see if there was something else that some other hack that was a good thing that we can kind of learn from. But it sounds like everybody's on the same page. I hope what I provided here was a little bit of information about meeting minutes, but it sounds like you guys are on board. Agenda is the key. And if the president is preparing that, it's half the battle. And so all you have to do is just kind of follow it and make sure that you're, again, I think the other important piece is to just make sure it stays very factual and that we're not putting opinions or, kind of calling somebody out on something, but just, you could certainly say Sally had an objection to how this was done. It will be discussed further, that sort of thing. But just keeping it, summarizing it and keeping it as factual as possible.
Right. Thank you for your time and your presentation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I wasn't going to get a whole big old cross, but I'm happy that you guys are here to hear what I had to say, and that, I'm happy to hear that, clubs are making it work for them. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Judy, for putting this all together as far as the Leadership Academy. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
guys
Cheryl.
so
You did a
very much.
great job.
Yeah, thank you. This
As
is
always.
really so much more detailed than I was even expecting. So this is really, really helpful.
Okay.
It has been.
I
Yeah,
tried to impress Judy.
always impressed,
You have
Cheryl.
raised the bar so high. We're all just trying to live in your world, but I'm happy about it. You know, I'm hoping that SIA look at this and, you know, it's like, hey. So, but thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's been a blast, and certainly if you have any questions going forward, let me know, but thank you.
Thanks again, Cheryl.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.